All right, let's talk about building the right product. Not just any product, but the one that people will actually use. And to do that, we're going to dive into a framework called Lean Inception.
Okay, let's be honest for a second. Have you ever been on a team that spent months, maybe even a year, building something only for it to launch to, well, crickets? It's a gut punch, right? All that time, all that money, all that passion, just gone. So what's the deal? Where does it all go wrong? Well, here's the thing. It's almost never about the code being bad. Your engineers are probably brilliant. No, the real problem, the silent killer of projects, is bad alignment. It's when everyone on the team has a slightly different movie playing in their head about what they're building, who it's for, and why anyone should even care. So, how do we fix this whole alignment mess? To get to the heart of it, we need to look at where Lean Inception actually came from. And believe it or not, it's a really personal story. It's about a new dad who just wanted to get home from work earlier. This quote right here, from the creator of the process, Paulo Caroli, just hits you, doesn't it? He's talking to his son, João. His motivation wasn't some corporate mandate for efficiency. It was personal. He literally needed to make his workshops lean so he could get home to his kid. That's powerful stuff.
So let's break down how this happened. Before 2011, these kinds of alignment workshops, they called them inceptions, were these massive 2 to 4 week marathons. But then, in 2011, two things happened that changed everything. First, his son was born. That's the personal pressure right there. And second, he picked up Eric Ries's book, The Lean Startup. Boom! The perfect storm. He took the ideas from the book, especially the concept of the MVP, and used them as a razor to slice those huge workshops down into a single focused week.
Now, that brings us to the absolute core of this whole thing, the MVP, the minimum viable product. I know, you've heard this term a million times, but it gets so misunderstood, it's crazy. So let's clear the air and talk about what an MVP really is. So, what is it? An MVP is not, and I repeat, not a half-baked version of your final product. Think of it more like a science experiment. Its number one job isn't to make money or get a million users. Its number one job is to learn. It's the absolute smallest thing you can put in front of real people to find out if your biggest, scariest assumptions are actually true. And this is where everyone gets it twisted. The myth is that minimum viable means, crappy, buggy, and unfinished. But the truth, it's about being a scientist. It's the smallest, most focused experiment you can run to answer one massive question. Should we even bother building the rest of this?
I love this lawnmower analogy because it just makes so much sense. You don't start by designing a ride-on mower with a cup holder. No way. Your first step, your MVP, might be just a pair of garden shears. You're testing a super basic hypothesis. Do people even want to cut their grass? Okay, they do. Cool. Your next increment, maybe you tape the shears to a stick. Hypothesis? Is this more convenient? Yep. Then you add wheels. Is this easier? See how it works? Each step is a tiny validated learning loop that gets you closer to the right product.
But just because it's small doesn't mean it can be junk. A great MVP has to check 4 boxes. It has to be valuable, it solves a real problem, it's got to be usable, people can actually figure it out, it needs to be feasible, we have to actually be able to build the thing, and then there's the secret sauce, the wow factor, that little spark of magic that makes your first users go, ooh, this is cool, and tell their friends about it.
Okay, so we get the theory. But how do you actually do this? How do you cram all that alignment and MVP-defining goodness into a single week with a room full of people from business, tech, and design? Well, it turns out there's a recipe for that.
So here's what a typical week looks like. You can see the flow, right? It's not random. You start super broad on Monday with the big vision and who your users are. Then you get into the nitty-gritty of features on Tuesday. Wednesday is all about putting yourself in the user's shoes with their journeys. And then Thursday's the big one. That's when you sequence everything and actually decide what's in the MVP. Friday, you show off your plan and figure out what's next. If that schedule looks like a lot, you can really boil the whole week down to 3 main phases. First, everyone gets on the same page about the what and the who. Then, you go wide. You brainstorm every possible feature you can think of. This is the diverging part. And finally, you come back together and get super focused. You converge on a concrete plan, starting with that all-important MVP.
Okay, this is my favorite part. It's where the magic really happens. You've got this giant wall covered in sticky notes, hundreds of ideas. How do you turn that beautiful chaos into an actual, actionable plan? It's time for some serious, ruthless prioritization.
The main tool for this is called the feature sequencer, and it's basically a big visual board.
The whole team gets up there and starts moving these feature cards around, organizing them into waves. Think of a wave as a release. This isn't some manager in a dark room making decisions. It's a live, dynamic conversation where everyone sees the trade-offs in real time.
But it's not a free-for-all, right? There are some simple rules that make it all work. Like, you can't put more than 3 features in a single wave. This forces you to focus. You have to balance how hard something is with how valuable it is. And obviously, if one feature depends on another, it has to come in a later wave. These rules aren't there to slow you down. They're there to force the hard, important conversations and make sure you're delivering the most valuable stuff as soon as possible.
So, after all that work, all those sticky notes, all those conversations, what do you walk away with? You get this, the MVP canvas. This is the trophy at the end of the week. It's a single page that captures every crucial decision and becomes the team's North Star for what they're building next. First and foremost, the canvas forces you to answer who exactly is this for? Not everyone, not users. Which specific person are we targeting with this very first release? The goal is to be hyper-focused so we can learn as much as possible from them. Then it gets crystal clear about what you're actually building. It lists out the exact features that are in the MVP. No confusion, no scope creep a week later. This is the list, everyone agreed to it. Period. And maybe most importantly, it answers the so what question. How will we know if we succeeded? The canvas spells out the exact results you expect to see and the metrics you'll use to track them. This turns it from just building stuff into a real measurable experiment. I think this Van Gogh quote just sums it all up perfectly. Building an amazing product isn't about one big, impulsive aha moment. It's about bringing a series of small, smart, validated things together. And that's exactly what Lean Inception helps you do. So I'll leave you with this final thought. People sometimes look at a one-week workshop and think, wow, that's a lot of time and money to get everyone in a room. But maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. The real question is, what's the cost of not doing it? What's the cost of building the wrong thing?